lineages. We start off from a very high place, but then it's kind of like an inverted bell curve. Each incarnation, we go lower and lower and lower in dimension, and then they start developing these conditions. And they're wondering, you know, how come nobody can help me? If they come to see me, I can explain what's going on with them.
Right. Now we have something called an AS.
AS, yep. We came from civilizations where food wasn't ingested. Arcturians, along with the Andromedan starseeds, probably have the roughest time as far as physical illnesses.
On to Orion.
Orion, oh yeah, Orion.
Today is Debbie Solaris. Debbie.
You know, oftentimes as a UFO investigator, I get the question, or not the question, but people that I interview begin to feel that they don't belong here. And I don't know if you experienced that yourself, but if you have, it's not uncommon, but there may be something behind it that we're going to talk about tonight. So you definitely want to tune in, definitely with the consciousness of yourself tonight, because we may even awakening something within yourself. Maybe we're going to get you to realize how special you are, and also where you may be coming from if you feel that you don't belong here on Earth. Now, one of the things that question begs is, am I a starseed? And tonight we're going to go through 32 different things that could possibly mean that you could be from somewhere else. Now, maybe all of them resonate with you and maybe they all don't, but if they do, then maybe you don't have to look in the mirror that you're strange anymore. Or maybe you don't have to worry about how people are saying, oh, we don't understand you. Oh, maybe you crazy. Maybe you are special, and maybe you are here for a special reason. But either way, we're going to explore that tonight together, because now it is time for us to bring these things forward, quit focusing on what's happening in the skies, but also focus on what's happening with people on the ground. And therefore, the question is why? Why are these people feeling so special? Why are these people feeling so disconnected? And why do people don't understand these people who I'm going to be talking about tonight? And why is it just a problem to understand that there's life beyond this universe? But either way, we don't give a damn, because we know today this is what we're doing and this is where we're going. So the challenge is not to you, but it's for others who just possibly cannot get along with what we have and what's going on tonight. So welcome to Why the Big Secret. I'm Roderick Martin, your host, as you know, being a UFO investigator and also a host of several TV shows. You can find those on the Discovery Channel. You can find those on GAIA, a couple of them on GAIA to be exact. You can go over to Amazon Prime and find me. Just Google my name. Even the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, definitely go there. And then most importantly, go to the Black Knight Satellite, where Forbidden Knowledge TV, which a great documentary. I'm in that one as well. Oh, and Fox Tubi and on Coast to Coast Radio. You can go everywhere. So I'm here to talk to you tonight, and I just want to thank you. So let's talk about starseeds and get right into this. And starseeds are what we call what are starseeds? I'm not going to say they're people, right? Starseeds originate from different star systems, such as the Pleiades. We're talking about Orion. We're talking about Andromeda. There's so many other places and different traits and behavior, but we're going to go to some of those. We're going to go through some of these universal traits, and then later on in the show, we're going to go through 25 different types of star systems and star seeds and all that. So that's going to be really interesting as well. So as we get right now into why or how some of the star seeds feel, and if this resonate with you, put it in the chat. Go ahead and communicate with some of the people. I won't be focusing a lot on the chat, but definitely we'll be doing that. One of the things that's top right off the list when I talk to people and when I interview them, or we're going through this UFO experience, most of these people feel homesick, period. And if you feel that way, it's not uncommon. And I'm not talking about the homesick. Well, it could be the same as you felt when you went off to the daycare for your very first time, or you went off to college. I know I felt that way when I went off to college as a teenager. The first few months was a horrible moment because I was homesick. I just was not It was an unusual situation being at the University of Kansas, plus being African American, and there's 30,000 students and probably a handful, maybe a few hundred, under 300 or 400 African Americans. And so we just didn't even see each other really, unless we was on the football team. But another part of this is, and so another part of this is a strong sense of being different or not belonging here on earth. See, because as I just explained, me being homesick, not belonging at the college that I was, but some of these people or you may not even feel that you belong here on the freaking planet itself. And why not? If you're homesick, okay, but let's go into that a little more. We'll get to do through some of these other symptoms and things, and we can talk about that. How about you love extraterrestrial shows and programming? All right. So, okay, we all could be a fan of Independence Day, Star Trek. We could be a fan of, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and all the way up to some of these new shows, Men in Black, and the list goes on and on. But why are we intrigued with this? What draws us to this type of content that you get here on Why the Big Secret and some of the other places? And that may be something that you want to inquire within yourself. And you might can find out, hey, maybe it's all because I'm different, or maybe you could be a starseed. I don't know. How about being empathetic? Yeah, I mean, and I ain't say apathy. I said empathetic, because some of these people are really carry a high sense of empathy when it comes down to other people. And sometimes that energy could get up on you, or they can draw that energy within themselves. And then at this point, it's almost like, for example, you have a person that, comes up to you and they tell you what this person has done to them, right? I just use, for example, Jake. Jake has did me like this. Jake treated me bad. You don't even know Jake. You can even care less, but you have now transferred, or they transferred that energy, the feeling that you feel about Jake. And when Jake walks up to you and you meet him for the very first time, you already have some bad feelings about Jake, only because of what you have been told by somebody else. And this empathetic side of the starseed is so strong and so absorbing that could be some things that you would do from there. Another part of this is the strong sense of unfulfilled purpose. And I know all the time when we're doing this, and when we are doing shows, or when we are out there looking for our purpose, a lot of times they say this, oh, your why got to make you cry, and all of these things. But it goes deeper than that, right? It goes deeper for you to find that purpose, because after all, we all want to have a reason to why we exist, period, right? Because I think that's one of the most important factors. Even if you listen to motivational speakers, or you listen to people who sit here and be like, hey, what is it with this thing, or why are you here? What are you doing this for? But I think it could go deeper than that, right? It could really do. It can go deeper to a point to where we can find out to say, all right, why am I here? What do I need to do? How do I discover that? And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. And even myself, and let me just kind of say this, myself has been going through a personal journey. And there was a time in my life that I wouldn't even look into tarot cards or getting people to access my Akashic records. And once I found how intimate that was, and you want to make sure you trust the right person that you're going to allow into this realm of your life. And I now have become understanding how all of this stuff is connected. And by the way, Friday show, we're going to do I'm gonna have Socorro here. Y'all remember her, but she's gonna do some live reading. We're gonna get some people out of the audience, and she's gonna do some live tarot card readings right here on the show. We'll pick a few people when we do this, okay? So make sure that you here and you're one of the ones that we choose and get your readings done, or listen to how this is going down, and make sure that you have to have access to a camera, because we're going to do this on screen. Great lighting and some good audio. If you don't have a headphones, don't do this, because we can't do all that echo cancellation. But anyway, another part of this, and if you want to be chosen for that, and I don't have to go through the process, go to contact@whythebigsecret.com, go to our contact page, put your name and information in there and that you want to be one of the ones considered for a live 15-minute reading. We're not going to do this because we're going to do it multiple people. So anyway, so another part is you are a sense of freedom seekers, okay? And one of the things that really set this thing in motion is that, you know, freedom or truth seekers or all of these things is an impulse to this. Now, I can't tell you that when we go over all of this, it's going to be a great show as we go through this stuff, but I can't tell you, or I will tell you, a lot resonate with myself. And I get that question all the time, or you're a starseed or blah, blah, blah. And I have a lot of things I'll reveal to you tonight. But again, freedom seekers, how about you're intelligent and love learning? Now, I can kind of contest to that, okay, even some people who may not be starseeds or intelligent, they love learning. But also, if we're going to do a combination of these things, then let's add this up as you become more and more and more aware that you could possibly be a starseed. What about your intuition is strong? Now, I will say this, you know, me being a Pisces, a lot of times they talk about the intuition, and maybe one of these shows too, King Simon, we're going to be doing numerology in the future. And then I got a couple other things we're going to be doing, but we're going to now look at some of this astrology and numeric connections to your life. And we need to know why the big secret. So that's another part, but they always talk about the intuition and how strong that is. And all of those things, especially in a Pisces or anyone else. But the strong part about that is, as I began to learn that, you have to begin the process of trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, because there's a lot of times when I do stuff here with the show, things that I want to talk about or not talk about, I have to make sure I rely on strong intuition before I step forward, because oftentimes there's a lot of critical people when you come down with certain things that you say and don't say, or how you say it, or your worldview. But then your intuition at least tells you it is you, is your unique self. Continue to be yourself. And that's some of the things that I've learned in there. And as you want to understand that right now we're in what I call the unveil stage of this conversation, as we unveil or unlock, so to speak, and then we unveil and then we unleash. We're going to unlock some of these things for you as for a starseeds. Another part, you experience a deep spiritual awakening. How often do you or people that you know that have transitioned to now begin to accept the fact that all these feelings that they feel homesick, all these feelings that they feel that they don't belong here, something may be different, that now they begin to seek a spiritual awakening and then become to understand it in more of a deeper fashion. And so we might hence have that term being awaken, or now I'm woke, or all these things. And I really still think that's a real low-level term when you're talking about ascension and all of the raising your vibrations and all of these things that will connect you to your higher self. I think it is something that you have to kind of look into, but then to begin to understand it, and it will take some research to do that. The other part is that you're a highly sensitive person. And I giggle with this because oftentimes when people say, oh, you Pisces or, you know, sensitive, I'm using myself as an example. And maybe that's a good thing, especially men, to have some sensitivity when it comes down to what happens these days, but also on a global level that I do have. I do have sensitivity for what is happening out here. I do have a caring and empathetic way of what is happening with society and people that are experiencing what is going on when we deal with this high strangeness that I call it. And I'm not still proclaiming myself to be a starseed. I'm just telling you that a lot of these traits good humans should have and should possess and should outwardly do things in society to represent their own selves and all of those things. Another part is that you have psychic or paranormal abilities. This is probably where my hypocrisy stops. I don't have that, right? Or if I did, maybe I don't know. But there's a lot of people that are psychic, right? They are intuitive. They do have paranormal. And I'm not saying it, and maybe I could be saying it wrong, but I had a reading today, and she was spot on in a lot of areas in my life, Socorro was, and I trust her with my inner, I trust her accessing my records, and I don't do that. I get offers all the time hey, I'll do a reading. I get people walk up and try to read me and touch my face and all of this stuff. And I know what they're doing, and you have to block those things, right? But you can't trust everybody for access to you in that capacity at all. I'm telling you, it's not something you want to do. So you don't want to skip around having all these different people reading you, pulling your tarots and all of this. Pick someone you can trust, pick someone that's reliable, and at the same time, and like I said, on Friday, you will see some stuff in real time from someone I really highly speak of. And so the other part of this is that you have had triggering major trauma life experiences or an event in your life. This is probably by far one of the flip side of this is when you are meeting people that have had trauma, and you're meeting people that have had situations in their lives to where, you know, that trauma can supersede how they see the world, and in result, how they treat you. And I know there's some good people out here that have had trauma, and I know some good people that haven't overcome some of this trauma. And some people won't even claim to admit to it, but yet you can see that the trauma still exists because you can see the energy that you receive from that communication process. And then oftentimes you have to be on a higher vibration to understand that anyway, because a higher frequency can recognize the lower one, but that lower one cannot see the higher frequency. They're at the highest point they can be. Another part is that you feel like an old soul who has been here before. Now, this is the part that I think that you get to really understand some things. All my life, in this life that I remember, I've always was not in the things that a lot of people my age were doing. There was often times that I did feel separated because I just, for whatever they were doing, just didn't entertain me as such. It didn't give me the feeling that, hey, I just want to go do that. Let's go hang out and do these things. And often still, as I move down this timeline, that even other people that I hang with or talk with, you just look more subtle in things. And I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. It's just the fact that it's how I feel. Now, and I'll share this with you on one of my readings, you know, Sakura did. And one of the things she pointed out to me, and wasn't the first time I heard this, but it was for her to confirm it, was that, hey, you're an old soul and this is probably your last time here. And for a moment, a quick moment, I felt like, wait a minute, you know, I don't want to go. But then I wasn't thinking for a minute, go wherever that is. I'm still curious because it's got to be better situation here or not, or maybe I haven't learned enough experiences. But what I do know is, as I see what's happening with Project Black, and I'm going to make a huge announcement with that pretty soon, that you're all just going to be blown away, then I know it's a purpose here. Yes, I'm here to take all of those experiences, all the things that I've learned in the past, and make a big bang as I leave this place this time, and to affect humanity to a point that where I will be remembered. I have no doubt to that. Okay, what's going to be set in motion that you're going to hear about, we will, in the collective, will be remembered. And that lines me to everything else. When you go down these paths, you got to now begin to center yourself around people that is in for this journey with you. And oftentimes there's a lot of people that are with you, and then there's people who say they will and not, and you just got to understand that this is going to be a hard journey for you. It's a hard journey for all people that are starseeds, if you're a starseed, because you're here for a reason and a purpose, and there's no instructions for that, right? But another part of this, if the holistic health and natural remedies interest you, oftentimes, supposedly, you know, I was listening to this guy, and I forget his name, on Instagram. And one of the things that he had been doing is that he was talking about, you know, how to divine intelligence, or the intelligence of the earth, and what God has created, from what to eat and fruits and vegetables. And he really, this video resonated with me so much that it was like, okay, fine, I get it now, because I was off track. And maybe this is where it comes from, when you have these starseeds who are connected to holistic health, as I was just saying, and they are now searching for off-worldly type remedies because somehow they know that what's happening in these processed food. And that's another conversation. Another part is that you have an inversion to harm or violence. And this is where sometimes even these conversations that we have here on Why the Big Secret are some of the places that I go with this, where there's a faction of people that feel that the species from other planets are benevolent, and so then the other side of this is that some of them are not, right? They're not friendly. They're here for some nefarious reasons. And the thing about this is that some people take that so much to heart that it can cause conflictions instead of looking into the objective view of what is happening. That is why you always hear my message is not how is not and what is not as important as why. And so even as you go further to find out the violence and what is happening, and before we tag, oh man, these people are evil, let's find out why they're doing this. And I'm not saying the why turns out to be giving them perfectly good reason, but it will elevate your knowledge to understand, hey, this is how we're supposed to handle this, because on the ground level, it's not happening. What about now? This is going to really, what I'm about to say next is one of these signs is going to probably interest a lot of you. Babies, listen to me, children and animals are drawn to you. Now let's go back to what I just said again. Babies, animals, and children are drawn to you. Now, I'm not talking about, and I've seen people that put their hands up and all of a sudden bees and stuff or just not one, but many just come fly to them, right? And sits on their hands. And I've seen this in real occasions. Now, where I'm going with this is we know that children probably have some of the most heightened psychic abilities out of all before they grown, and this is suppressed by their parents. Yeah, some of you suppress some of your kids' psychic abilities because you don't understand it and everything else, and you want to give them a new worldview. And this is how most of us are cultivated as we grow up in the first place, right? But if you ever notice in when you're young, you got these children that, let's say a family reunion, and Uncle Harry comes up or Aunt Jean comes up, and mom says, go give Aunt Jean a hug, and the kid be like, hell no, I'm not doing it. And then they trying to force them. That's that power. They knew, or no, I'm not saying that Uncle Harry or Aunt Jean is pedophiles or anything like that. I'm saying that the kid knows this spirit is not a good one or has not transformed itself. And sometimes we often force them to accept those things, right? And we go, you better go over there and give them a hug. And I never was that way. My ex-wife, the mother of my children, would tell you, we ever came into a situation where my kids did not feel comfortable giving you a hug or shaking your hand, that was my senses too. And I'm like, okay, shit, I ain't forcing none of that, okay? And so those are things that you have to look at. But then you got some parents that will beat that out of these kids, or beat that, or you have been transformed of that sensitivity now is no longer there, because over and over the power of that person is telling you, accept it, accept that feeling, accept what you don't trust that intuition. So those are things. But anyway, when you got animals, love for animals or all of these things, that is another thing approach. You do your research on that. I'm still a nature guy myself, but you have to understand those things as well. But also another part is that you imagine what life will be like on other planets or galaxies. Oftentimes, people that could be possibly starseeds are always picturing themselves not here. And we can't say it's a dream state anymore, because it possibly is an altered reality that people are experiencing. That's some of the things that I began to interpret as I began down this path, interviewing hundreds of people, doing TV shows, exploring the what I call the other side of things that people just don't dare to go, and then also looking at these high strange things in more of a objective view. And oftentimes that you hear in many cases people having dreams that they're not from this planet, and they are getting these pictures that they were somewhere else. Now, the part about this is if they were to tell this story to family and friends and people who possibly don't believe them, they're going to be tagged as crazy folks. You know that, right? And maybe you yourself have been tagged to be crazy yourself, right? And so we have to really begin, if you're running across people or begin to meet people, whether you think you're a starseed or you are a person, and because I believe nothing just happens, there are going to be people that are positioned in people's lives to either be angels to them or guardians to guide them. And so you need to know what your responsibility is, that you may be that impactful person to guide them, and you as a star seed or anyone else need to recognize that person who is to take you off your path and hide themselves as though they're here to help you or to be here, and they have I ain't gonna say recollection of what's going on of remembering what you know, but the whole point I'm saying is they have not the intent to do this. They're just using that camaraderie to get closer to you and maybe at some point impact you in some hurtful way. And they don't know it, but they are, because they're not really catering to your needs of what's going on. Another part is that most people, or some things that want to consider being the star seeds, you're fascinated by astronomy, astrology, and spirituality. Now, I'll be the first to admit, when I first started this journey, you do run into some people that you have to say, wait a minute, they are either borderline crazy. Now, I used to say that word, right? And now I can look at it totally different. And I do look at it totally different after being years in this, and understand that how they see the world is how they see the world. And although some of this stuff is unverifiable, you still have to believe they believe what is going on. But then once you get into this space to know the possibilities, because you can remember, my job has always been to give you enough information that you can see, things that you can hear, things that you can read, to awaken your curiosity to the possibility of what's happening out here in this high strangeness. I don't never want to stand on a foot. You ain't going to hear me say this is this. And if you get somebody who's telling you everything is everything, run as fast as freaking you can, because not everybody don't know everything. They may have some pieces of the puzzles, but don't let them tell you their words and what they're saying is absolute, and then you get caught up in some craziness, okay? But when you talk about fascination with astronomy, and we're talking about astrology, we're talking about spirituality, that is a real presence. All of this stuff comes into play. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure out numerology, astrology. Then you're talking about spirituality. Then you talk about consciousness. You're talking about all of these different things that you have to begin to, at some point, grow a little bit in each one of these, because at some point they all heads up to the tip of that pyramid of knowledge, the quest, right? And sometimes there may be people out there that are specialized in each of those areas, and they have done the work, the shadow work, and have done the homework to become not just experts, but spiritual guides in those particular areas. And you may want to extrapolate information from this person, from that person, from this person, from that person, and you put together a collective thought and consciousness of what you're trying to accomplish, what your purpose is, and what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you can get distracted by everyone else's consensus. And I'll be the second person, not the first, to tell you that it has probably happened to me on numerous occasions, because sometimes I do have a lot of people that speak life into what I'm doing. And sometimes when I'm lost and I have to try to rely on some of these people, then gets difficult, because if they're not aligning and not understanding who I am and what it is, sometimes you can get, but like I said, I do have a good inner circle now, and it's really good. And that circle has now made me stronger. And so that is going to be trial and tested, right? And where we're about to go with the big announcements and stuff, there'll be some people who are not going to be in that circle, who may not feel that they want to go on this big ass journey. And I'm telling you, it's going to be incredible. And it's all surrounded with Project Black. So we're going to be doing that. Another part of this is that others are drawn to help your ability to help and support them. Let me say that again. Others are drawn to your ability to help and support your ability. This is the statement that you heard me make on many occasions. And I found this out as I went to the Conscious Awards, as I tread through this whole thing over the last few years and then the last few weeks, and there was times that I was tired. There was time that you really get lost because you got so much coming and so much downloads of information, and you have to really read through it. You got to understand what's prioritized and what's not, right? And that was another part of my reading today, is that I got to now prioritize not only individuals that's around me, but at the same time, the goal and what it is and what I'm trying to accomplish. Because at this point now, this is my assignment. I have an assignment, and if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And those who are going to be a part of that, they'll surface, and they're already here, and you'll have all those things. But I've always said, when you're on this quest, and one of the things I figured out after talking, we use the spiritual term, a closed mouth, don't get fed, and all of that. When it says others are drawn to your ability and help support, I've had some tremendous people. And this is the part when I start getting the message that for me, and when I was worried about things, especially the monetary side or survival, and sometimes it get hard, was that it wasn't about the lack of resources or lack of money. And I'm talking about for me, there are people, this is the messages, that are responsible. And you hear, let me say this again. There are people who are responsible. They are here to give you some assistance. They're here to make it less difficult for you, right? There are people who are here, but you're not going to meet them standing still. You got to move on this journey. Sometimes it's not a red light. You can't have a green light syndrome, and where you got to make sure everything is perfect before you step out. You're going to run into some caution lights. You're going to run into some red lights. You're going to run into some stop sign. You're going to run into some detours. You're going to run into some crashes along the way. You may crash along the way. You're going to have a flat tire. You're going to run out of gas. You can't afford the gas to keep going forward. All this is emotional stuff, but there will be people who will be on that journey, positioned to help you continue where you're supposed to go. And I'm the first one, not the first one, but I'm here to tell you in real time. There's people in this room that help, that I know are those people. There's people that I've worked with, and there's people who I'm going to meet in the future. And there's people who are coming up now, once again, who are drawn to you. And when I make this bigger announcement, I don't know when, you're gonna be like, what? And I was like, what? But when you get those calls that people are sensed and sent to you to help you with something that's way bigger than you can imagine, but yet I'm trying to do it. You're trying to push it up the hill. You don't know how to do it. And those are things that I'll tell you that would happen. All right. So another part of this is you have to understand. Let me back up for this one, though. Oh, let me go into this one. You're into conspiracy theories and documentaries. Okay, Why the Big Secret is all damn conspiracy. That's it. I'm in it. And, the whole question is why. The whole theme of the show is why the Big Secret. And the whole part of that is trying to figure out what is happening out there. And I'm into conspiracy. I'm into a good conspiracy. I'm not here to start one and create one. I'm here to understand them. But then there are also a psychological part to conspiracies. And a lot of people are falling into those things, and you have to kind of know what that is. But I'm into those documentaries. I'm into the stories because it's intriguing. Not just the fact of what is happening, but why it's happening. And here's another part where I know right now I'm probably, I can't say I'm a starseed because everything doesn't fit, but this particular one right here probably tells me I'm just not all the way. I could be 90%, 60%, 20%. I'm just not claiming that. But the whole point is, it says you're a vegan or a vegetarian. I have no clue. I'm not going to stand behind it to say I understand why this would be one of the symptoms, or not symptoms, but one of the things that could possibly mean that you are a starseed because you're a vegetarian and a vegan. Now, I was listening to this guy, like I said, on Instagram, who have taught me a lot in the last few days, where I am eating more fruit, vegetables, and mainly fruit now for my sugars versus the other thing. In the past, I would think, oh, you can eat just as much of these sugars, just as worth. No, the sugars that's coming out, I'm learning now, that's coming from the water, the sun, and divine intelligence. Our bodies handle that totally different than processed sugars that man made, right? And so And I didn't think this way for quite some time. And so now, and just over the last several days of switching, doing that, I'm getting a whole different energy level, digestive system's different, and I'm taking in more water because everything I'm eating has water in it. So go figure that one out, right? It's just common sense. All right. So the other part is that you feel that you inherit very little of your parents' traits. Now, I didn't say that you need to go and look at a situation and look at your parents and say, I don't look like my daddy, I don't look like my mama, and then go trying to go do DNA test and find out that somebody may have cheated, and now you start a family ruckus, that secret that's been kept for however long you've been here. I take that back as a scenario. It's just a scenario. But the whole point I'm saying is sometimes people feel that I don't come from it. Now, here's the deal. If you remember, we did a show with one of our gentlemen that had his near-death experience. Y'all remember that. If you go back into the archives, look him up. And one of the things he said was his kid, him and his wife was sitting in a room, and unbeknownst to them, the kid was just looking at them like they like some foreign people and said, where are my parents at? And they like, they're joking at the time because he really didn't understand where he is today, what he knows now. But the kid of his was asking his parent, him and her, their parents, which was his wife, where is my parents? And so at this point, that kid was sensing that this is not my parents. Now, I say this is because if you go and you do a lot of research, you will find stories of people or children that are solving their murders or having regression in all these past lives. You've even had people that their kids were their parents before, and now they done swapped experiences. All this high strangeness is here to stay. But then that was one of the stories, and I don't have it right off the name of the video title, but you go through it, it is going to title him having near-death experience and where he explains that. So you want to check that out. Actually, I think I did that on Forbidden Knowledge. And so it may be go back through those archives of doing that, okay? Another part of this is that you had imaginary friends as a child. All right, okay. Any of you had imaginary friends as a kid, and then this friend actually was something that was guiding you. And we've seen a lot of movies like that. We've seen a lot of stories. And oftentimes society deems that person has some type of crazy things about them, right? But maybe you were talking to somebody, or maybe that person was talking to somebody. Maybe they was talking to their spirit guides or all of these things, and who knows, but we have to understand that the possibility is there. So if you have had an imaginary friend or you still got one, and okay, don't get me wrong, as an adult, it probably would be a little freaky if you're sitting there with your significant other and they say something to you or something to the effect of, yeah, I know he's crazy. And then you look up and talk about, what are you talking about, baby? And I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Fred, Fred. And, you have to deal with that. I don't know. I don't know where that hypocrisy for me will stop and go. But hey, I'm sure there's some people that are in relationships today that as an adults probably still have imaginary friends and talking to them. I used to always say it's okay to talk to the imaginary friend. It's when you begin to answer yourself back in that other person's voice instead of just letting it stay here and talk versus you begin to say it out loud. I think that'll be a challenge. I don't know. All right. So another part of that will be, let's get into, you feel drawn to crystals and their healing properties. I am just now beginning to study and feel the energy of crystals. There's going to be a couple of shows that I have planned that we're going to talk about crystals. And a lot of these things are things that I'm going through, and I'm seeing how it's not only helping my life, but helping the journey that we're doing great and big things here. And all these things seem to be some necessity or necessary for the journey, tools and things that I need to learn. But maybe you're drawn to crystals. And like I said, that didn't faze me a year or two ago. A year or two ago, yeah, I knew about crystals. I knew, okay, they have some powers to it. but I never was drawn to crystals to really go through that. Now today, I have one. I got my jade one, and it's for reasons. And if you want to know, look up the properties of jade, and you'll know why I'm wearing this. Okay, so it's not something that I don't subscribe to now. I know the power of that. I'm still trying to learn more about the different types of crystals, the benefit of them, how to utilize the powers for what I'm doing, the journey. But in the meantime, on a simple note, crystals are something that you might want to look into, or if you are drawn to them, maybe again, it could be from the presence of you being not from this world. You like physical touch and stimuli. All right. So who don't like physical touch, right? Maybe somebody who's had a bad experience, maybe someone who's had experience of, you know what I'm saying, improper things growing up, then maybe they're not into those touch and things, because I know that for a firsthand that you can be with a person that, you know, have had experience of those things. You touch them at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And man, you can get a reaction you're not prepared for. Okay. And these are things that you might want to know about if you get into a relationship with somebody. You hope they will tell you. But the whole point is for yourself. Now, I don't know where that comes into fact of being a starseed, that you are against it, but it's saying that you like it. You like that. And I'm a person, I like affection. Oh, yes. And I say that wholeheartedly. And as I go down the road of building my relationships, or especially if it's an intimate relationship, it is high on the list, you know. Not only that, communication, but physical touch. Now, some people call it PDA, public display of affection. Yeah, if I'm out and we want to show some affection and I need it, then I need it. I want it. And if you want it, I'm going to give it to you too. But then there's people out there who don't do this. I came from, there was a person I was in a relationship with, and, you know, they didn't hug and kiss and do things within their family. I remember the stepkids that I had, when I used to grab them, and they were little bitty kids, like kids. They were kids, you know, young, and I would hug them or just kiss them on the top of the head. Hey, I love you. And the daddy was furious. You know, why is he doing that? But they're not animals. They are kids. They're growing up to be. Now, I'm not doing anything inappropriate, but to grab a little boy and just hug him and you kiss him up here, I mean, hell, hey, good job, son. You know, great job. They're still babies. Some people treat babies like they're freaking grown men or lady or whatever, and they don't give that affection. And now those kids grow up and they have a problem with society, and then they meet a woman who is affection, and now she's just feeling like, wow, this dude doesn't love me. But it's not that. He just don't know how. He's been trained. I don't know. I'm not a relationship therapist, but what I'm saying is, if you like it, find somebody who likes doing it too. And if you find somebody that's not giving you what you need and you're willing to give them what they need, X that stuff out. I'm telling you, the energy is not there. The other part is you daydream a lot. I think that this is one of the things that you have to take in consideration, that sometimes you may sit here and you just space yourself out because you're sitting here. You may be daydreaming. You may be finding yourself in a situation to where you're just not focused, but you're somewhere else. And daydreaming don't have to mean that you're off world in some other planet. It's just that your conscious and your mind is somewhere else. And I've had people that stand right next to you and you sit there and talking with them and you look at them and you know they're not focusing on a word that you're saying, and they're actually daydreaming. They're somewhere else. Now, we know kids can tune you out. That's not something that they don't do. But at this point, another part of possible signs that you could be one is you have memories of living on another planet. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've talked with that have those memories. I can't even number it. It's that many people. And what really piques my curiosity most, that makes it into a more bigger journey, is when some of them explain some of these things to have, some of these things to where people, what's the word I'm looking for? They have similar stories. They never met each other. They don't know each other, but they have similar story. And I think it's one of those things to really understand that, wait a minute, there's something else. These people are having dreams. And like I say, later on in the show, we'll go into the different types of star seeds, and maybe one of them resonate with you and where they're from, some of their likenesses and dislikes, and some of the things and what type of work they may be in. If you are in some of these jobs, then hey, once again, because like I said, we got a good one for you. The other part is that you've seen things that science can't explain. And this goes back to what the Dogon tribe and all this stuff, when they start getting information from other extraterrestrial or worldly beings that was giving them stuff in constellations, that the scientific community. But what about Betty and Barney Hill? What about some of these people that have been regressed, where they have different shapes and geometric signs and things that, nobody can explain, but they're more advanced than what we see here. Obviously, you got that information from somewhere, and oftentimes we may think of an alien abduction, but what if you are a star seed and you're just your memory is beginning to throw these things out here? So that could be another part. Now, let me say this: when I first started this journey, there were some people that was like, "Don't deal with star seeds," because and I will tell you, there is a spectrum of starseed people. There are some that's probably about as normal as a French fry at McDonald's, and there are some that's about as way off as a baboon chasing. I'm just making some stuff up. I'm telling you, I'm just trying to give you a vivid imagination of a bunch of baboons running, and then over here you got somebody just as subtle as a rose petal, and it's that big of a spectrum, okay? And I'm not, I could have used a better word than baboons. What about a fleet of, I don't know, but just something that is wild is what I'm trying to give to you when I say this. Another part of this is that you read about starseeds. All right. So, all right, I did some research on this. I'm sitting here talking to you today. You're listening today. Some of you are probably resonating with some of the stuff that I'm saying, or you might know somebody who has or is, and you may want to call them up tomorrow and say, hey, come back. You need to watch Why the Big Secrets Monday night show that came down to about starseeds. And yeah, by the way, the dude is doing a great job. Yeah, I'm doing a good job. So the other point of that is, I think let me put this up here. So anyway, just as any time and any other reasons, if you're finding value and resonating with anything that I'm saying tonight, and you want to support the show, up there's the Cash App. This is a community supported show. So I just want to be throwing that out there from now on, that you all support me, and this is how I'm here for you. All right. So, and then if you're not a member, become a member. And if anybody became a member tonight, I'll give you a shout out at the end of the show. The other part is you believe that life is somewhere else. Of course, right? We all in this community believe that we're not alone in this universe. And even people that may not be starseeds get that one, right? But at the same time, it begins with that process. You cannot begin to be in this community of what we're doing if you don't even have the curiosity to wonder what's out there when you see the stars and all that, which why I was trying to put together a nonprofit group, and I'm still working on it, called Project Stars. Stars, if you go with what I'm about to say as an acronym, is using, and here's where from S to the S, is using stargazing, two with the T, achieve with the A, real with the R, space is the S, conversations. We want to use stargazing to achieve real space conversations. And this is basically just sitting out there with kids with telescopes, not trying to tell them to be tomorrow's astronauts. And let me put an asterisk about what I'm about to say. Astronauts are very intelligent, well-trained people in a multitude of areas, from scientific to all of these things. And it is a specific skill. To go into space now, tomorrow, you can be a passenger and now call yourself an astronaut because you're going up there. But you're not typically a certified, experienced, space exploration type, astronaut. So where I'm going with this is when we do Project Stars and you got people out there and the kids, you're able to look at these children and you're able to talk to them, and you be quiet. You don't initiate the conversation. You wait until when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? You wait for them to look over you, mom, dad, or big sister or cousin, right? What is out there? What is this? Is it something beyond there? Now you can start the conversation, which is the tagline, as I say again, of Project Black. Start the conversation. And so these are things that you want to be able to get there when it is. All right. So another part of this is you've seen things that science can't explain, right? You've seen things that science can't explain. And I said that before, as I touched on it earlier, when you're talking about some of these things in pretty much. And I think it's a wonderful part of doing that from there. All right. Thank you for the support, my friend Karis. I did call you twice this week. And once again, y'all hear that all the time. I call her all the time. But anyway, check your messages. All right. So the other part is understand that. But anyway, thank you for the support. Definitely. Another part is this, that you can easily read between the lines and pick up on nuances. All right. We can call that spider senses. You can call it BS meter, whatever you want to call it. Supposedly your intuition is heightened enough that you can pick up and read between the lines and what is happening out here. And I can't tell you about being in a relationship with somebody like that, where if they are operating in a negative state, so when you come home and you wasn't doing nothing, you just came from the gym and you've been exercising so that you can get as a man, your testosterone and everything running up so you can give her the loving that she needs, and her spider senses tell her, oh, I know you weren't at the gym. I know you couldn't been at the gym because you whatever. That's a negative side. And that could go either way for anybody, job, friends, cousins, or whatever. That's just my humor. But the other part of this is with you, though, operating in the positive energy of what you are or being a starseed, then you can pick up on things that might naturally not be there. And I think that's a good thing to have in your mate. It's like driving in a car where, you driving or I'm driving or she driving, and you got somebody in the front seat. They don't have the wheel, but they're in the front seat with you. They don't have the brakes and the gas pedal, but they're up right there with you. And there's times that there's corners and places you're going to come to that you're going to have to look over at him or her and say, hey, can I make that turn? And then that person is going to look and say, yeah, you got it. It's good to go. That is what you want when it gets down to that person's intuition, or they can see the nuances. You're dealing with a salesperson and they're trying to get over on you, and the other person tells you, I just don't feel like this is a good deal. And I ain't say the word think. Think and feeling and communications are two different things. But they don't feel like it. And sometimes if you're in a relationship with that person and you begin to trust and those things are turning out to be accurate, then that is your benefit of having that person that has those abilities. And that should be something added to the, not conversation, but the productivity and success of the family unit, right? Some people got strengths and some of them don't. I'm just throwing that out there. All right. So that's 32 things that we could talk about. And pretty much, and I could have got into a little more detail of each one, and did that, but then that's fine. We went pretty good. And I have all of those details there, but we're going to put that to the side and we'll get ready for the second part of this as we go into a little more detail, from what we're doing. But in the meantime, let's get some information here. Okay. So, we have someone that support our show. Y'all know Celeste does this, and definitely, she has her journals, and I have some here too. And there's her website, Amazon, and definitely go check those out, because journaling, I think, is a great way of getting things off your mind, especially in real time. If you sleep at night, you have a dream, you want to wake up and journal, I think that's a great thing to do. So she has separate different types of journaling that you can do, but also her being an author and educator, everything is put together in a precise way I definitely want you to definitely support her. Just go and do that. She supports the show, and one of the other people here that allows me to do what I'm doing. But in the meantime, support Celeste and what's going on, because again, she's a truth seeker. And so make sure you guys and gals go ahead and do that. So give a shout out to her. And once again, look at those things. Yeah. And as the greatness of Droney says tonight, make sure you hit that like button, smash that like button, and everything else. All right. So let's go into a few other things, and I know one of the questions is, are there different types of starseeds? I get that all the time where people want to know, and I want you to think about this for a minute. Let's use our common sense. Are there different types of animals here on Earth? Are there different types of species of spiders? Are there different types of snakes and dogs and humans and all of that? So why wouldn't it be through divine intelligence that there are different types of other things that are happening? And it just makes complete sense, correct? So those are things that I want you to look into and think about. But yeah, there's a possibility that you could see and be those things. But let's go into the starseed side or whatever, which star system, if you were a starseed, who do you resonate with? And then where you could be from. And that all goes to the possibility. Now, of course, you want to ask yourself, do your soul originate on Earth, or are you a starseed origin, right? That's your magical question. And I just want you to understand there's over 78 million beings on Earth that were sent from planets, galaxies, star clusters far beyond our solar system. And this is some of the stuff that I've researched. These are intergalactic and what we call light workers, light bringers, being is known as starseeds. And the question is, if people know this, why are we dealing with society today wanting to find out who and what we are? So I think that's something to really think about. But do you know that there's many different types of starseeds that's walking this earth? And so we're going to dig into this in this section of the show and pretty much do that. So which type of starseed are you? That may be your question, if you are, or if you think that you resonate. And like I said, I'm not giving you absolute. I'm not wanting you to walk away saying, oh man, what Roderick said, I'm a starseed. I want you to walk away with information that spark your curiosity to the possibility that you were. And as I always say, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. It's time to think why. So when your mind now is consuming this information, your eyes will begin to open, and you want to think why, not in a negative sense, but why do I feel like all of these things that I mentioned before, which then gives you the journey or the gasoline to turn that key to begin to unveil, unlock, and unleash. And you want to unlock the curiosity, go unveil the truths of what's happening. And then when you learn it, then you do the third thing, is unleash the knowledge to live a better life, okay? So you definitely want to do that. So one of the starseeds that's out there that when I was doing some research and talking to a few people was what we call, let me see, one of the thoughts was Pleiadians, okay? And, but at the same time, let's get with this. Before we get to this, listen up, I'm sorry. There's also issues why starseeds have issues, and it's called Ascension symptoms, okay? Listen to my term. And there's a reason for that, but to better help explain that, listen to what I have to say here, or listen to this clip.
Frequencies that cause either ascension symptoms, which
Now we have something called Ascension
Ascension
systems.
symptoms,
I
yeah.
have AS.
yeah, AS, yep, exactly, yeah,
I love it.
ascension symptoms.
We'll
Yeah.
get into that. We'll continue what you're saying and then get into AS.
AS, yep. So, so ascension symptoms are symptoms that occur that can be disconcerting because you just feel off, and a lot of times it happens because we're shifting in and out of dimensions. So, a lot of starseeds and light workers actually reside in higher fourth and in mid fourth dimension, but then we have to pull our vibrations down to third dimension, and it causes a lot of incongruencies with how we feel. But my main concern is the actual physical illnesses. So you know, what is it that really are chronic diseases or chronic illnesses that are causing people to feel off or not feeling their best.
All right. So I encourage you to look that up. I'll have a link. I haven't put it in here to that episode on Gaia where she explains all of that. And then there'll be a link, and it'll take me probably about 20 minutes after the show for a free trial if you want to go and watch that episode and just use the free trial to do so. But it will probably help you on your exploration of this starseed journey if you're going to go on one. One of the things is Pleiadians, okay? Now, Pleiadians, of course, comes from Pleiades, all right? And this is supposed to be a galaxy. It's supposed to be a beautiful star cluster known as the Seven Sisters in Miser 45 in the Taurus constellations. Once again, you hear me say Taurus constellations, you see that there's some connection to astrology. All of this stuff is connected in some way. And so it alone should take you on a journey to begin the process to say, hey, let's look at what we're talking about. Let's look at this thing to do. And I am just so really in tune that you're here. And if you're here, it's here because you're supposed to be here and listen to this. Now, Pleiades is made up what they call a hot blue luminous stars, all right, that has formed within 100 million years. So think about the timing of this, 100 million years, okay? So it's been around a long time. So they're still new in comparison to the overall age of the universe. Supposedly it's supposed to be longer than that. Now, actually relatively close to our solar system, being only 444 light years away from the sun. Its sun, which is called Alcon 1, is, however, is thought to be 7 times brighter than our sun. Okay, so imagine that one. Now, according to many reports, on a crystal clear night, 14 stars out of 1,000 that have been discovered can be seen with the naked eye. All right. Now, the purpose of this is, according to the Western mysticism or hermeticism, their Pleiades are considered to be the record keepers of the earth. They are known to be highly knowledgeable and have advanced healing abilities. Okay. Now, the Seven Sisters of their star group is said to be open to all those who seek a different level of consciousness. All right. And it's also said that Pleiades is a school of learning. All right. Where beings from all corners of the universe can reincarnate to develop their understanding of the essence of nature. Now, it's like a pit stop, what I'm referencing it to, or a school of life, right? And this is where you discover the meaning and purpose. And I think a lot of us has been on those journeys as we begin to see what is happening out here into this world. We're looking for meaning and purpose. Now, as far as they leave Pleiades, Pleiadians are here to help human race evolve and ready for the golden age of transformation. Now, that's a talk that we get all the time where Ascension and all those things come up in mere conversations. And so it's worth noting that, you know, maybe again, it's time for you to explore those things. And I'm going to give you what I call some Pleiadian starseed traits in just a second. But it's also said that the Pleiadians naturally exist in the 5th dimension. So now we got 3rd, we got 4D, 5D, and the birthplace of love and creativity. All right. So that maybe, and I'm not saying that the others that we're going to talk about, they all are good, right? But then Pleiades are supposedly have love and connection. Now, one of the things, we'll get to that in just a minute, but as a result of these are advanced in art as well as traditional healing practice such as Reiki, crystal healing, and counseling. So if some of that stuff resonate with you, you're into Reiki, crystal healing, counseling, look it up. You may be from the Pleiadian star system, right? And it's worth to do that because once you find yourself, you'll be able to understand this. And let me give you some traits, though. Likely very young in the terms of soul age, as their star cluster is relatively new and yet oddly and can feel wise and mature as Earth beings. Because they are still new in the galaxy or the universe, most of the Palladiums are likely young in terms of soul age. Remember earlier I said there was old souls, there's probably new souls, but the Palladian souls are relative new. They're true humanitarians, right? They're really out there helping humanity. Once again, they're strongly empathetic. They feel like they have a big mission on Earth. You know, how many of you feel that way? How many of you feel that you're here on this planet because there is a mission that you're trying to accomplish? There's a mission of why you are here. Most of them also are family oriented, very good with children and animals. That is something there, and maybe exhibit strong feminine nurturing energy. And it doesn't mean that a man who is Palladium is less a man because he has some feminine energy. That's actually it's the dual polarity of that, right? The yin and yang anyway. So the whole point is they're gentle in nature, all right? They averse harm to violence, okay? So there's a lot of stuff that's there. They're perfectionists. Oh boy, do you want to run into that person? And they're people pleasers, and often to their own detriment. Sometimes people don't know how to say no. Now, we have a lot of that when we have descriptors of people today, right? You go to psychiatrists or therapy and they tell you got to learn how to say no. And, you know, and maybe the therapist can't really help you because they're dealing with somebody else, a star child or something, or from a whole nother place. They're a Palladium and they really can't understand or resonate, and they're talking to them from a human carnal level versus more of a spiritual one. So make sure if you're going to do that, find somebody who's spiritual enough. They're often very polite and soft-spoken. Now, we're not getting into this, but I've done this in the past when I used to teach network marketing and a lot of stuff. But there's different types of personality. You have INFJ, you have INTJ, you have SP, and we're not going to get into that, but look those things up. INFJ personality, INTJ personality, INTP personality, INFT personality, and ISFP personalities. And so look that up because they're out there in a lot of conversations once we do that. Another part is going to be they're very drawn to astrology, like I said earlier, spirituality, metaphysics, space, and astronomy. Now, this is similar to what we talked about earlier, that if somebody's a starseed, they're going to, possess some of these things. But now we're breaking it down and saying, okay, they fit those, but now if I'm more of a Pleiadian type person, now this is a little more detail into one of those things there. Pleiadians are skilled healers, extremely gifted in arts and creative fields and counseling, okay? They also spread love. They wishes everyone else was just as loving. Boy, we run into that. And they can be highly sensitive people. And once again, there's also the astrology of things that goes with this. And they may have what we call a Northern European or Norse heritage. So maybe, you do Ancestry or you do some of these DNA things and you begin to say, okay, that's fine. We're going to look into seeing where we come from. They understand balance. And I said it a while ago, the yin and yang, the light and dark, the sun and the moon, all of those things, good. I wouldn't say good versus evil, but there's always the polarity, dual polarity of things. They might suffer with anxiety, depression, self-esteem issues when they're not in alignment with their true nature. And I can understand that. I can understand that, if somebody's not aligned with their true nature, that they're going to experience anxiety because they're still trying to figure this thing out. Everything is not copacetic to them. Depression, and then of course, once again, the true nature of them that comes back to confidence being competent, right? Or vice versa. But anyway, it's said that Palladians naturally exist in the fifth dimension and the birthplace of love and curiosity. And as a result, these beings are advanced in arts as well as traditional healing stuff as that. Now, let me give you some traits, okay? And I think we probably can go into some of the Starseeds type stuff here. So let me go back for a minute. Okay. My notes are doing good here. All right. So another part of this is that some interesting facts. So let me kind of go over that with you right now. That there are more advanced than humans, Pleiadians, but they are a young starseed race in comparison to Sirians that we're going to talk about, and also the Arcturians. So they want to look very what we call Nordic by nature, light skin, light eyes, fair hair. And there are supposed to be over 75 million Pleiadians on Earth at any time. So why not find yourself? Why not find and hook up with, your origins or whatever. Pleiadian is also known or drawn to water animals like dolphins and whales. Is that something for you? Have you sensed that, or if you know people, or maybe your kids, or maybe somebody like dolphins and whales? If you do, put that in the chat, and we can pretty much see where you are so people can count it. And once again, if you're looking at the chat, if you're unavailable to chat, that's our family. It's members only chat. They're supporting the channel, and you can get a members membership for low as $2.99 all the way up. But if you want to access member only videos, start at the $6.99 a month. All right. So another part is they most likely, and listen to this, incarnate as females on Earth and exclude intense feminine energy. So I'm sure there have to be male Pleiadians, right? But what they're saying is that they're most likely, if they're going to reincarnate when they come back, as females. And maybe it's because of the feminine energy to experience those things. And Pleiadians often identify with water zodiac signs. So here's something that, listen up, that it may, once again, remember we talked about the connection with astrology. We talked about the connection with all of different things that's out there, but they're saying that the signs, the zodiac signs that often identify with Pleiadians, is 3 of them here. And maybe you want to hear that, and maybe you don't want to hear it. But if you do, let me know. I'll tell you right now. But in the meantime, they're found in roles such as spiritual mastery, psychology, healing, child care, and as well as environmental fields such as ecology. So these particular Pleiadians deal with these things, and pretty much. And so Wolfman says, is Pleiadians or white women? Okay. So, all right. So here's the deal. The identifying water zodiac signs is Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. All right. So I'm a Pisces, but I'm still not claiming to be a starseed. But a lot of the things that they talk about is pretty much, I don't think I have no feminine energy, but why not? I think we all do. It's a duality. You got to have feminine and masculine energy to really be empathetic in this world, right? And so that's something to think about. All right. So the next particular starseed is going to be Sirian starseeds. All right. Now, since the dawn of time, all right, the Sirius dog star, man, we talk about the Dogon people, has also known as the Alpha Canis Majoris, has been a focal point of many legends and myths, and also for a good reason, right? And we're going to go into that. It's often said that the Sirius is the most important star in the sky when it comes to humanity's evolution. All right. It's believed that Earth is heading toward a Sirian culture at a rate, and actually at a rapid rate. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that, but why not? Somebody tell me why y'all having conversation. Roderick, why don't you believe that you're a starseed? All right. Like I said, I haven't been looking at none of the chat today, so I'll probably go back over, at the end of the show a little bit, but I don't know. We'll answer that question in a little bit for you. Great question. The other part of this is these beautiful souls. We're talking about Sirian starseeds, all right? Comes from the planet Sirius A or Sirius B, with a letter being the brightest star in the Earth sky. Now, let me stop here for a second. And once again, if you find any value, then go ahead and support the show if you can, all right? And what I'm saying tonight. But listen, let's go back to Sirian starseeds. And I know we can sit here and say to ourselves, well, I don't really believe in that, or maybe I do, maybe I don't. Okay, let's stop here for a second. We already know that the Dogon tribe have in their cultural history talk about Sirius A, and then they presented what scientists didn't know was Sirius B, and you got to think about this as an indigenous tribe that wouldn't have technological advancements to really do this. So this is passed down through their doctrine from space visitors. So if I'm going to talk about a Sirian starseed, at least this particular one right here, you want to try to gather yourself to say, okay, if any of this relates to me, then let's go with it, because there's some truth in that. You have to know there's some truth. How would these people even know? All right, so it's Sirius B is a water planet, okay, that's supposed to house dolphins, whales, and mer people. Maybe, it vibrates on an incredibly high and non-physical 6D. You get where I'm going? We talking 2D, 3D, we got 4D, and everybody's talking about you got to be in 4D. Now we got 5. Now we're talking 6. How many dimensions is it? But you're talking vibrational levels. So it's widely believed that these two planets gave rise to awakening of humans. Now let's go into the purpose. Sirians are often peacekeepers, okay? They're guardians of the world. Their soul is to watch our evolution and guide us during times of turbulence. Now, I know we're going through a lot of times now, and you might say, okay, where are they or whatever, but I'm sure they're here. The secondary mission involves bringing divine harmony, love, peace to all those who walk this earth. All right, so that's a good one there, and pretty much. As watchers of the earth, we're talking about the Sirians. These benevolent soul group teaches us the true state of the universe and its lengthy history, filling in the gaps of our knowledge and whatever needs to be. All right, so some of the traits of that, once again, is drawn to the Sirian star system. If you are drawn to the Sirian star system, then okay. They lead a simple but spiritual life. Maybe they're not searching for wealth, or maybe they're not trying to be, high profile, but they just live a simple, but they're in more of a meditative, spiritual life. That's fine. They're very open-minded people. Struggles to express personal feelings sometimes. So we have to now start to understand if we're in relationships with different people that are experiencing certain things, and now on a human level, we try to just say, okay, this person is not for me, or this person is not for us, or they different. Maybe it's because they're different. They're different from a whole different species. But I think if we better understand people that way, you can build sensible relationships, understanding people's strengths and weakness beyond their physical bodies that we're dealing with, right? All right, so Sirian people are what they call GAIA's people, very drawn to caring for Earth during evolution. Supposedly, they're very loyal friends. They maintain a tight-knit circle of friends. They're fantastic sense of humor and not afraid to act silly. That's cool. I mean, you want somebody to make you laugh, and so those are things that you could do. They feel like again, they have a mission to save animals or nature. They're drawn to lost civilizations and myths and legends. They're calm and adjusted. They're intense daydreamers. Maybe they're attracted to the ocean water, and if they're from Sirius B. And also they have a different time of expression emotions in relationship. And I just said that, I just reiterated on that maybe it's not that person, but yet it's how they're wired, because they're here on Earth to get an experience in some of those things. But let me give you a couple of interesting facts before I give you the next one. Every August, you can connect with the if you're a Sirian, high vibrational and loving energy of Sirian race during what we call the Lionsgate portal. So make sure you go look that up, because a lot of people talk about those things, and we don't talk about a lot of that here, but we will in the future. It's not that we don't have the knowledge. I just kind of stayed away, but we're going to go deeper into a lot of stuff for you. The other part is the ancient Egyptians built a pyramid to align with the Sirius star constellation, or Sirius constellation, and it's the homage to the Egyptian goddess of magic, motherhood, and fertility. And also, sometimes we take the term magic, and it's a negative connotation, right? Oh, somebody's using magic, but magic is not. It's a word that's known for the high supernatural, the high, all these things. So sometimes we need to take a better look at how we are perceiving things today, And maybe if we look at it different, we might can then begin to vibrate at a higher vibration and reach that vibration, thus where you come from. The other part of this would be the struggles to express emotions. Sirius find it is difficult to open up. Now, I'm not a therapist on that. I can't tell you why, and there could be a flaw in the genetic system of that. I don't know. But they do lead a very simple life, and they're not power hungry, and they rarely seek possessions rather than the value of personal freedom. And so that could be it. And if you are, and you do that, I think that's one of the things that you can look and see, and it's worth noting to look at that. Now, one of the things that we're going to talk about, the next one, is what they call Arcturian starseeds. Arcturians are born leaders with strong personalities, and they form a part of the most advanced civilization known to the universe. Originally from Arcturus, they're inside what we call the Boots constellation. Look that up because I was doing some research on that a while back. It is said that the Arcturians built a prototype of how life should be lived on Earth within their own star system, okay? They also believe that this prototype is light years ahead of where Earth is now in terms of evolution. They're mystical beings. They're emotionally, mentally, and physically more advanced than what we are, existing in, again, another higher dimension, which is the fifth dimension only, right? They only operate in the fifth dimension. The purpose, Arcturians are strong and well-being who naturally command leadership, but they're also known as what we call the builders, the architects, right? The planners of the world. And as you can see, once again, we have all of these different parts that people are coming into where now you can start finding out what your purpose is and everything else. And so that is something that you might want to look at this point right now. And so again, if you feel that any of this is resonating with you, then it is something to look at once it comes down from that. Now, again, they're also, Arcturians are here to be what I call advance and to innovate. They move the world into what we call a brighter or better future of pioneers, and they're incredibly dedicated to their soul mission. You may have met somebody like that, or you may be that way, that are just really are into these things. In fact, if they had jobs, they'll probably be into logical thinking roles, probably technology, science, probably, right? Makes sense. Architect, city planning, coding, all of these things. So you're going to be drawn to some of the stuff that you are in, and it pretty much there. Now, they do have traits, but surprisingly, Arcturians supposedly they possess emotional abilities. Many of them are natural healers, right? That possesses the innate ability to become a shaman. So if you know shamans or you know some people, possibly they could be Arcturians and some stuff like that. Now they feel a calling when it gets to this, but then they're also incredibly gifted. So to get into a little more detail about Arcturians, let's go into this right here.
Arcturians, what I noticed with a lot of Arcturian starseeds, is, particularly the ones I've worked with, besides myself, we struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression early on in life because in Arcturus, we're used to being connected to a collective. So in Arcturus, we're constantly connected with other Arcturian beings. We feel a lot of love, support, energy from
learning, sharing,
and a lot of conversation. So when we incarnate here on Earth, we feel very separated. We feel like, where's my support? Where's my love? Where's, my family? And so we tend to undergo quite a bit of anxiety early on in life. Sometimes it can be lifelong. I still struggle with anxiety. I keep it under control, but I do have my moments where, I do struggle with that. And I've noticed that once Arcturian starseeds understand that, hey, I used to be connected with this big family, it seems like they're able to manage with the anxiety here on Earth much better and the depression, where they feel like, oh, there's a reason why I feel this way. You know,
Yeah,
it's
so
not-
there's they can understand it at least.
exactly. Yeah.
And that helps. Another thing is there are a lot of Arcturians.
All right. So once again, you know, you're talking about Arcturian starseed traits, and I'm gonna go through a few of them, and then we'll move into the next starseed, which is Andromedan. All right. So definitely you want to hear that. But anyways, Arcturian starseeds are drawn to, again, the Arcturus star system. They're natural born leaders, very charismatic, incredible telepathic, and can receive information via the mind. Highly passionate about their work. They're logical thinkers, organizers, planners of the world. Great public speakers, love attention, extroverted, may seem to be big-headed or egotistical when they come out of alignment. Highly intelligent and motivated, often would climb to a corporate ladder of a corporation, tendency to rise to the top. They often find in fields such as mathematics, data, science, communication, technology, medicine, engineering, and architecture. They're also interested always in how things work. May seem callous as they are not in tune with other people's emotions, right? But they're gifted in the art of tarot, right? And divination. They're good channelers, all right? They're interested in mathematical side of spirituality, e.g., sacred geometry, natal charts, and signs and degree. But they're often confident with a very high drive for success and want to live in a world with spirituality, science can blend in. And last but not least, they show anger when they are upset. Does that fit the bill for you or anyone you know? If it does, you know, put that into the chat and let's see what's going on there as we go down the line. Now we're going to talk about next is Andromedan starseeds. And definitely, this is pretty interesting. There are, of course, around about 800,000 Andromedas here versus, as you remember, 75 million Pleiadians, right? And so we're talking a whole big difference when it comes down to this. But let's figure out why. Why is that? Why is the number so off? Well, the Earth galactic neighbors only 2.5 million light years away are the Andromedans, and they're incredibly loving, gentle, telepathic race, originated from what we call a spiral-shaped galaxy of Andromeda, and sometimes known as the M31. So kind of look that up. They have pure energy. They almost what we call childlike, based on on interaction with them and meditation. If you're kind of going with that, and most people sometimes call them the children of the earth, and and that's the reason for that, because of their childlike base. There again, like I said, there's over 800,000 of them. Souls exist here on Earth, which is a tiny comparison, like I said before, to other races. They're known as quest warriors. They're playing important roles when attracting to no little attention, though. Their purpose is they don't serve a soul group mission purpose, but they rather were placed on Earth to serve a very specific purpose only known to themselves. So a lot of times the Andromedas, we don't know, only they know why they are here. And if you think you know specifically and it's just a specific task and it's one of those quiet ones, okay, look into that. But fortunately, Andromedas are extremely gifted at accessing the Akashic records, which they can help with other Andromeda starseeds discover their true purpose and reincarnation. I have a friend of mine, we was talking the other day, and she's being visited, and she's talking about how whoever's coming to her is telling her, we put you here, we just wanted you to know. And she's also feeling that she's on her last rounds. But those are interesting things once you think about it. But Andromedas need to take time to adjust to Earth, as they are naturally existing forms up to 12th dimensions. Now, you get where we're going with this? We went from 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, now we're in 12th. And we just think we're, oh man, I'm operating in 4D and 5D. You ain't nowhere close to where this thing can go, right? But anyway, this change of frequency affects the ease with the Andromedas and how they can incarnate on Earth, all right? So this means that they only retain a small percentage of their true energy, which can be startling for some Andromedans. Despite this, they're incredibly heart-centered and the masters of anything art and science related. Now, this balance between the right and left hemispheres in their brains give them a unique position in the universe, but they may feel a tug of war. So if you feel like you have a tug of war during their walking their lives about, but they're supposed to do versus what they want to do, then this may be difficult. And how many of us feel that way? Sometimes, you know, we doing what we want to do. And then that's that old saying, and find out what you would do for free, have fun doing it, and then try to make money with it, right? Who knows? But at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those deals that you want to look at. But Andromedas have traits, all right? Let's go over that real quickly. May not be drawn to Andromeda. They have a purpose, but not knowing what it is. They have a light or what we call a white aurora. You know, look that up. Then they also act childlike, innocent, but not childless. They're introverted. Their observers tend to blend into the background, and you know, with some of the things that they do. They're often true freedom seekers, right? We talked about that earlier. They're empathetic, but they guard their emotion due to previous trauma and conflict. So think about it. We're talking about starseed from another planet that are here, that apparently have conflict and trauma, but yet we know people need to deal with their traumas. But why they travel so far to a whole new galaxy to not only deal with traumas, but what if they can't and you begin to be in a relationship? I don't know. But they have strong desire to travel the world and visit one place in particular, okay? They're very creative, but they're also logical beings. They love anything creative or science and may be found in any field, okay? But they feel drawn to spiritual jobs like tarot readings, writers, Reiki healers, counselors, artists, teachers, musicians. They're interested in metaphysics and spiritual practices and may suffer from a deep-rooted anxiety or depression if not in alignment. So it doesn't matter at this point, good or bad, people need to be aligned in what they're doing, right? And so that is something that we want to look at. But interesting fact, their telepathic abilities that they have open up an energetic pathways between the galaxies when this happened. And so when they want to, Andromedas, they have a strong sense of humor. They're full of joy and gratitude. Then they have a magnetic aura, which push Earth souls at ease. Okay. All right. So Orion, and we probably heard this all the time. And as we get into it, and let me see here how many more that I want to talk about for you. Got a few more. We'll go into light workers and then we'll go from there. But yeah, we got a lot more, but I'm not going to go into all that detail. Y'all probably can't handle all this. I got a lot to talk about, but not that you can't handle it. You might just not want to hear it. We've been here an hour and 30 minutes already. But anyway, if you decide that you want to, once again, if you're finding any value in what you're hearing tonight and you want to show that value, you can put that in the Cash App. It will immediately affect what is happening. Orion Starseeds. Orion Starseeds originate from one of the most known and well-documented constellations in the universe, okay? These are hundreds upon stars, which within what we call the Orion constellation, which is the Regal and the red supergiant Betelgeuse being two of them, right? You've heard that before. They're relative secretive and unlike other starseed types are most likely to have both positive and negative races here on Earth. Said it again. They're relative secretive and unlike other starseeds, the Orions most likely have both positive and negative races here on Earth. Did you hear what I said? Races, right? So don't get it twisted. We're not talking about that any of these starseeds or one particular race, white, black, green, or yellow. They can be any, okay? And so let's look into it. But they are true knowledge seekers. And while they most believe in that they only apply the scientific methods, they believe, I think, and as I studied, that they're here to learn regardless of the subject. Now, they're extremely logical beings, these Orions, and they're highly mentally polarized, and they're very in tune with reasoning and practicalities as opposed to their emotions. So you might get people that I talk about thinkers and feelers. And, if you're in a relationship with a woman or a man, and, we're talking about the same thing. So I'll use this phone, for instance. One of you says, I think that iPhone is not working right. And, another person says, I feel that the iPhone is not working right. And you both think you're communicating, but you're not. Believe me, you're not. If one of them is feeling, that's emotive, and the other is thinking, that's logical, and they're not seeing the iPhone not working the same way. That feeler might have a problem because it's not working. They want to make a call. They want to call somebody. The thinker saying this thing is broken. It don't work. I don't know if the technology is good, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, they're not communicating. So that's something I had to learn in the past. When you having a relationship, and at the time when I was married, the she-wolf will say, hey, I feel such and such, such and such. And I had to start realizing that her feelings were totally different, even though I can say the same thing I'm thinking. But when I said things like I think, it was making her feel a little stupid. And when she probably say things like feelings, I'm like acting like me, thinking like you think I don't care. So it's a lot of stuff when it comes down to it. But when we get back into these starseeds and all of this, it's safe to say that it's not our fault. A lot of stuff, the way people are feeling these days, may be far beyond just being born under some stress. It may be some galactic reason that we have to look at it, and it's one of those things we can do. All right, so another part of this is Orions are complete opposite of the Andromedans. You probably heard that already. They're a type of beings that require hard proof before they freely accept a belief. The purpose on Earth is to help improve civilization knowledge in fields such as science, technology, and medicine. Their personal spiritual mission is to open up heart centers and learn to be more trusting. And not all Andromeda starseeds are the same, though. You ever heard of what we call the Mycoticans, right? Or the Minoticans or whatever. They're a type of starseed that originated from Mentica, all right, which is a planet that exists within Orion's belt. They're thought to be original light workers, and they're here solely to teach us the value of potential in ourselves, the potential in others, the potentials of life. And the realm of the Mentica is no longer exist, or so it's believed that while many of them, if they do still exist on Earth, they'd be more homesick than anybody else. And so remember when I said Orions had bad races too. Okay, so look that up. All right, Greys in particular, a sub-race of Orions, are said to be stuck in here, reincarnating on Earth life in the afterlife. We don't get into that a lot, but there's a story that we, in the researchers that want, where we're going to come out and talk about Earth being a prison planet, right? So let me say that again. The Greys are particular what they call a sub-race of Orions that are said to be stuck here in reincarnating or reincarnating here on Earth afterlife. So we talk about those souls, the soul planet, or there's supposed to be a soul net. There are so many things we can get into, but we're going to start doing it. I think y'all are ready to hear some of those things that I kind of look back and say, and putting that together here. All right. So another part of this is that this is due to what we call a karma cycle and their interference with Earth beings in the previous life. So they're believed to have, they've been traumatized and they hurt humans with galactic means that they're stuck here. So in other words, they're upset that they're stuck here and they're in this human body or other humans, and they just really don't like it and they're taking it out on us. But to clarify, Orions aren't bad starseed type. They just different from the other starseeds in the way we think and function, okay? So just kind of look at it from there, and it's one of those things. Now, let me give you some of the traits, and then we'll split it up to the Mentican starseeds traits. But one of them is they're drawn to the Orion constellation. Why not? That's home. That's probably why some of you feel in the way you feel. You're like, hey, you know what? Am I drawn to this stuff, right? Another part, they're compassionate, they're activists about what they're interested in. They're task-oriented. They love their work. Most likely to be entrepreneurs, dream-inspiring leaders, true knowledge seekers, They love to learn, jack of all trades. I ain't saying a master of none, but have a lot of knowledge. Now, they're interested in science, biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy. They're calm and adjusted. They're very, they rarely get angry, and they show outbursts of emotion and unintentionally may come off as cold because they hold their logic. So, but let me share with you some of the astrology or the signs that they could be. And that the earth signs could be Virgos, Taurus, and Capricorns, okay? Or most likely people that are from the Orion side of this, okay? The other part of the Mentaken starseeds is that they love being on Earth so close to the water elements. They're drawn to ocean beings, whales, dolphins, and very kind and nurturing beings. And you know what? That is possible that we got people living under the oceans. They could be Orions or that particular species and stuff. And anyway, so Orion is the class of learning. And then we can talk about Indigo. We can talk about crystal and rainbow children. I can get into that a little bit if you want. Had a lot for you here tonight. But I'll go into that just a little bit. So the new kids on the block will be what we call the Indigo, the crystal and rainbow children. These are star beings who are born into what we call the physical realm. They're born here, okay? And remembering their divine qualities and gifts and missions. And most likely, some of these people are hybrids anyway, but their collective soul mission is to help Earth humanity move out of what we call the old paradigm of control. You're talking about fear, you're talking greed, you're talking manipulation. And then instead, they shift you into what we call the new paradigm, okay, which is love, peace, integrity, cooperation, abundance, all of this. You know what I'm talking about, right? And it's impossible, not impossible, it is possible, though, to be an indigo or crystal child, not necessarily what we call a rainbow, but we can get into that. But an indigo child is most likely, and let me give you some years of this, born between 1950s and the 1980s. And they're not technical. It's not, in other words, all right. Yeah, they're born between 1950s and 1980s at this point. You may have read that indigo children are sensitive, they're intuitive, and have a strong will of innovation, right? You might have heard that a lot. That's incredibly accurate when it comes down to this. And they were what we call the rapid ascenders, all right? And here to revolutionize our society and ways of thinking. And if you look how different between 1940 is and 1960, in terms of ways of living, technologically advancements that we have out there, acceptance of others. Well, remember, that was crazy. And it's clear to see the influence on the indigo starseed today, all right? And they lead the way for what we call rapid and progressive change. And if you were born between 1980s and maybe 1990s, it's possible that you're what we call a crystal child, okay? Crystal children are considered what we call the starseed group today when you talk about these things. And unlike indigos and rainbows, crystals are often have that signature feeling of homesickness. I mean, that's why we have that right now with some of the youth. And they have this, what we call the classic starseed symptoms that we was talking about. You heard her talk about earlier. And, you know, it's one of those deals. In fact, I'll play it again real quick if you want to hear that symptoms that I'm talking about.
Frequencies that cause either ascension symptoms, which
now we have something called ascension systems.
Symptoms.
I have AS.
Yeah, AS. Yep, exactly. Yeah,
I love it.
Ascension symptoms. Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll continue what you're saying and then get into AS.
AS. Yep. So ascension symptoms are symptoms that occur that can be disconcerting because you just feel off. And a lot of times it happens because we're shifting in and out of dimensions. So, A lot of star seeds and light workers actually reside in higher fourth and in mid fourth dimension, but then we have to pull our vibrations down to third dimension, and it causes a lot of incongruencies with how we feel. But my main concern is the actual physical illnesses. So, you know, what is it that really are chronic diseases or chronic illnesses that are causing people to feel off or not feeling their best?
All right. So as we're talking about that, just know that, like I said before, if you were born between 1980s, 1990s, you could be what we call a crystal child. Now, a crystal star child, most of them are very empathetic, right? Deeply spiritual, and have a close connection to Mother Earth, or Gaia, they want to call it, right? They're also open-hearted healers as well, and they can feel and heal at the same time. So there's a lot of people have this magic, right? And sometimes we think and sometimes they have this and they don't know it or don't know what to deal with, and they think it's strange. But again, it's time for us to do that. But last but not least is the rainbow children, all right? It's believed that rainbow children started appearing on Earth around 2000 and onwards. Okay, so this is recently, 20-some years ago, all right? And though these are timeless and their estimates are not set in stone, rainbow children are spiritually gifted and know it. And from a young age, they was fully aware of their capabilities. I don't know if you remember, and like I said, I normally don't get into that. I'm going to start getting this deeper for y'all because you deserve to know. And I said this in the past when I talked about some of this stuff, and I said once that young people are religiously and emotionally bankrupt, right? Because they're feeling out of place. They're seeing that the religious thing doesn't work for them, but they're also wondering, are they crazy, or why are they feeling this way? And this goes back into the timing of young people now will be people in their 20s and all of that young. And why I said there was religiously and emotionally bankrupt. I never referred to rainbow children because I just didn't want to get into the dialogue. But now that we're just going to start going deeper, we can. But that is a reason. These people are born in a time that, again, they can't be taught the religious side. And some of you are trying to press this on your children, and you're not communicating effectively with them, and you think they're crazy, or maybe they don't want to accept Christ, or maybe they don't want to accept the church. That's not it. They're a whole different thing that's happening. And if you can comprehend that or begin to understand that these rainbow children they're here for a whole different reason. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, but it's worth exploring and for you to look into those details to understand. And once again, from a young age, they're fully aware of their capabilities. A lot of them know that they're different. They know that they could manifest. They know that they have these powers, but it's their parents who's born before them is that they can't really convince, or the parents try to suppress those things. And there's something that you definitely want to you definitely want to do. And so I'm just saying that you want to look into all of those things and figure out what is happening, because at the end of the day, it's big, y'all. It's a big thing. It's a big thing at the end of the day for us to understand what we're doing and what we're looking at. All right. So what's interesting, though, listen up, is the Starseeds characteristic, not seen in any other type of souls, though, right? And they're free from what we call karma that is going on in life, right? They believe that the rainbow children, listen to me, haven't lived a past life before, and therefore they cannot have accumulated any karma debt to pay or spend. And let me say that again. Because they are now just coming in here from the 2000, they're beginning their life cycles, right? And so therefore, they're not into this karmic thing that some of us experience because of past lives or past decisions or it's karma. They don't have no debt to pay. So they're living in a whole different time. They're acting totally different, and we're trying to figure out why. And basically, you might want to figure that out. And it's one of the reasons could be they're in their first incarnation, right? They're just here for the first time. So like I'm sitting here saying, I've been told on many occasions, this is my last time, and it's why I'm doing and going to be doing something big that I'll be announcing. Some of these people are here for the first time, and it could be your children. There could be, your teenagers as well as your young adults that's coming up. And so where did they come from? I don't know. Personally, I don't know. They could be from a whole different dimension, but they're not from the Pleiades. They're not from the Orions. They're not from Andromedans. They're not from Sirians. They're not Orion. All of these, they're not there. There's something else. And that lets us know this thing is big, y'all. It's definitely big, but they could, and because they're somewhere else, they could explain why they haven't had these physical lives before. We're going to do some other shows about that. We're going to go into why the big secret, but they do have what I call spiritual avatars, right? And most likely to be what we call the future teachers of the world. These are people that are going to be out there, and you'll see, and you wonder how some of these young folks are so divine. They got so much wisdom or whatever it is. They're on a whole different cloth. And so, it's one of those things that you can say that they're still incarnating at this moment right now. Some are being born. They're positive that somebody else, and I'm not going to go too deep into that because I don't want to stir some people up, but 2020 was a complete year, what we call big change. Remember, a lot happened in 2020, and this is the kind of phenomenon that gives the way to a new star person. And although we had some negative things happen around that time, but it birthed a whole different type of kids these days. So look at some of these youngsters and seeing how they're looking at the world. Okay, so another part is, it's one of these things that, and I know I'm going into a lot tonight, and I usually don't do this, but I'm now compelled that it's time for us to unlock some of this stuff. We need to unveil, and then, of course, what you learned tonight, I need you to unleash this stuff. So that is why the Why the Big Secret logo is the little keyhole, and this is our brand, and this shirt and all this stuff will be on the website pretty soon. I'm sporting them first. But another part of this is you hear people call light workers, right? You heard that term, and this term I think sometimes get thrown around all the damn time, right? Everybody talks about light workers, and now of course the story of this is that these are special starseed souls, right? They come from different planets, different realms, different star systems. So they're not just one cluster that the Orions or the Andromedans or the Sirians and Pleiades and Pleiadians. I'm saying this is not a Pacific starseed race that are light workers. All of them could be. And the other part is that the light workers, they don't call one place home, right? And they like to call the star nomads for this reason, because they're traveling. Supposedly they're traveling through the universe. They're traveling all the time. So Earth is not their home. Andromeda is not their home. Pleiades is not their home. So they're like pilgrims, if we want to use that into today's time, that you want to look into those things. And believe it or not, though, over the last 25 years, known types of light workers, and I can get into that, but we'll do that in another show, because that's something I've been studying, that there's a lot of them, and therefore we can get into those things. But I can get into some of the traits and all of that. But supposedly they travel with one purpose, and that's to help Earth and other worlds evolve. So there are different worlds, different planets in different places, and and I think that it's one of these things that you want to look at it from there. The other part of this would be, it's believed that they also serve the purpose in that they either die or reincarnate into a different galaxy, and they're energetically receive another mission within their current life form. So basically for light workers, unlike some of us reincarnating here, trying to live those experiences or wanting to experience life here, they pretty much are like time jumping. If they leave this place on Earth, now they end up probably somewhere else. They got another assignment. Probably that's pretty fun, right? And probably, they're going to different places. So I'm not really for sure on that, but definitely they're there. And then their primary purpose, which is a good thing, is to spread love. That's why you hear a lot of light workers talk about love, light, and kindness, right? You hear that all the time. This is what their mission, or what we call the message that they give, right? Love, life, and kindness. And you hear this all the time. But and I believe that from some of the light workers that I've met, they don't have any nefarious or malicious intent. Some of these are some very good people, right? They're just good people. And you could tell they're just fizzling through life, don't have a care in the world, kumbaya, whatever. But that's something that maybe that's part of what they are. And what makes them unique is that they're not tied to any culture. And it's not a black thing, a white thing, or African thing, or Chinese thing. It's not none of that. In fact, they don't even give a damn about the planet itself, and not give a damn in a negative sense. None of that matters to them. They're literally here to spread light. Okay. And that, once again, is love, light, kindness, and all. And if I probably would love to be in a relationship with one of those type of people, right? And you just really get taken care of really well. And as long as you ain't trying to flip the boat, you just may have something great. So, light workers. All right. So, again, this is probably, and listen up, you're going to have a lot of light workers that don't identify as starseeds. And it's not a problem with that. It's because they're not, and they're from all these different places. So when you start hearing people that they're not a starseed, but they sound like one, you think they have those unique abilities, they have all of those things, is once again, it's not because they're not a starseed. There could be light workers, and you could be a light worker. You may have all of those things that I talked about, and if not, go back and look at the video again. But you may be a light worker, but yet you have a lot of these traits as a starseeds, but you don't identify as a starseed. You just don't see yourself that. And so, once again, Lynn asked me earlier, Roderick, you don't see yourself as a starseed? Probably not. And I'm not saying I'm a light worker, but I don't see myself as a starseed. So I was going to get to that, and that was what I'm answering. And sometimes we're here to do good things. And I said all the time to my haters, if you can love me, you don't know me, I can, or hate me, not know me, I can love you without never meeting you. My word is love, and that's something I want to give. In fact, I'm saying this on a personal. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and this is a true story. Listen to me. We was talking about relationships, and I said, one of the things about it that I don't think I've experienced true love. I really don't. I've been married twice, been there and got the t-shirt, and I'm hoping to be in my new relationship is to really experience love before I leave this place, right? True love. And, she was like, what is that? And of course, we're trying to explain it. I was trying to explain it. And of course, sometimes it's hard to explain what you don't know, but then you kind of know. And once again, that is it. And that is probably even my mission today, is when that partner and that true partner shows, and then we can understand that I have a mission, a huge one. And when I said we're going to make some of these announcements, that person has a huge responsibility in guiding and help guiding the ship. And maybe a lot of people don't come into that. Everybody has their own intent, their own things. That's great. My goal, hopefully, is someone embrace my journey and embrace what I do, because I want to experience that true love and true support of all of those things. So I'm throwing it out there, and that should be bad, because you don't want somebody coming at you. I already know your code. I just gave out some of my fucking codes to the heart of this man. It ain't food just because I'm a big dude. Think you're going to cook your way in this deal? No, it's not. It's not the food. It's not the food. But anyway, light workers feel aligned, and regardless of what planet or star systems, you're talking about, they must learn to adapt to new environments. They live a higher purpose, often highly rebellious and don't follow the norms, right? highly intuitive, very sensitive and in tune with their emotions, have an innate drive to help others. Most likely are odd souls or old souls. Okay, it's coming into there. Might have a difficult childhood, highly creative, and have artistic individual. Suffer from trauma in early life, and I'm sure we all have. I know I have. And they lead a natural lifestyle and avoid chemicals as much as possible. And it's funny, and I'm not saying I am, but I've never smoked a joint in my life. I don't, and I've never been drunk in my life. And probably one time I think I had 2 wine coolers. It was enough. Never smoked cigarettes. I'm probably accused of eating some bad food. And once I get, and I'm changing that right now, then it'd be one of those deals. But yeah, I never done any of those things, but don't make me different. I can't tell you I never done some other stuff with that, but I haven't. I've never done cocaine or any of these things. But light workers are lucid in dreaming and astral, and they understand the purpose of duality, and they often as a magnet for problems or problematic people. Sometimes, and if you're a light worker, sometimes you're going to be trying to be a hero. And I'm changing that about myself now, right? And I'm not saying I'm a light worker, but oftentimes, I know I ate that candy, man. Yeah. Oftentimes though, you have to look at what is happening, and sometimes men or women, we come in on a white horse, and sometimes we want to be heroes, or we want to be there, and sometimes it's a big burden, right? And one of the greatest part of that is understanding those things, and hopefully at some point there will be somebody here for you, light workers, right? There will be somebody who will serve and be there for you and provide those things. But anyway, one of the other parts of light workers are strong manifestors, their ability to manifest quickly and effortlessly. All right. And they also experience what we call deep spiritual awakenings. All right. This is a lot of stuff. And so I just want you to really think about those things. And so, Lynn, hopefully that answers your question of why sometimes I don't receive the fact that being a starseed, because I know I got a big purpose and there's things that I'm doing. And even now, as I begin the process in the revelation of how big the Project Black stuff is going to be and how many people is helping. I got phone calls today from people sharing their experiences. They're just coming in. We're going to put the 24-hour hotline and all of these things up. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there that are wondering that we're going to help and that we need to help. And so I think that's something that we need to figure out. And again, if you find any value tonight, hopefully I resonate with you in some stories. So let me give you a couple of more, and maybe we'll open up the chat for questions. Maybe we can take a phone call or two or whatever. But one of the things is Lemurians and Atlanteans, okay? Now, Lemurians and Atlanteans are also believed to be what we call the first starseeds. If you go back and look at some of the history, they originate on Earth and mingle among what we call the human forms, right? And some people can go back to Anunnaki or whatever. But Lemuria, or the island of Mu, was thought to be the largest continent that sank under the, I think it's the Indian Ocean. And this was long time ago, long time ago. It's Bernie Mac was saying, long time ago, eons away, right? But Atlantis was thought to be what we call the city of legends, thanks to this popularization by Plato. Go look up some of those stories. But however, it's believed that Atlantis was a civilization and not a city. Oftentimes we're always looking, and I had somebody call me one time and was like, "Hey, Rod, I know where the coordinates to Atlantis, right?" But nobody seems to pretty much found this thing, and maybe it's bigger than what it was, but it's possible that it wasn't a city, but a whole civilization, right? And that could be multiple cities. It could be multiple places, and just food for thought is something that you could really think about one of those things. But anyway, Both were vast continent populated by advanced beings that developed technological and healing technologies as well. And then a lot of what we call philosophies are derived from that today. But it's also the brightest star in the Betelgeuse, and supposedly 700 times bigger than our sun and Origo, and a blue supergiant 860 light years away from Earth. So if we go back to in Greek mythology, we talk about Orion that represent the giant huntsman, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they attempted to capture the seven sisters or Artemis, right? And think about all this stuff we have today. We got the Artemis rocket. We got all this stuff named after all this thing. This is not happenstance. It's not by coincidence. It's a reason. We got to think why. Why are we now calling this rocket Artemis, and yet we know, you know, what it could be. But anyway, they fell victim to it. Artemis, they fell victim to his own ego and pride, supposedly. Orion, that's who I'm talking about, really. But anyway, eventually being killed by the scorpion sting, right? And so after one of the things I want you to think about it is, are you a starseed? Do we want to go into that? And I can go into Orion's and Orion starseed origins. I can go into a few things, but I think I'm gonna stop there because I can go into deeper if you are Orion starseed and all that. So we're not gonna go. But anyway, I have a headache, to be honest with you. Let me drink some water. But it's one of the first time that I just talk straight through. Didn't want to give y'all no infotainment tonight. But all right, so at this point, you know, think about some of the stuff that I said tonight. If anything resonated with you, or anything in the point of being a starseed light worker, or where you could be from. And hopefully you're able to get some of those answers tonight. You're able to get some of those things to understand who and what you may be, and to awaken the curiosity to do further research to understand some of these origins, right? Because now we're just getting to a point that this stuff is difficult, and it's one of those things that we have to do. And so, you know, I'm done with what I'm talking about tonight. I'm done with what we're doing, and pretty much, and hopefully, like I said, tonight, you were able to get some information, was able to answer some stuff for you, and hopefully you share this message, you like this message, and once again, if you found value in this message, then you could at some point, you know, support the show. I can only say that as much as I can, but anyway, but outside of that, make sure Friday, we're going to have Socorro here Friday live. Socorro is going to do tarot readings. Make sure if you want to do that, go to whythebigsecret.com, hit the contact us page, put in a number. If you do not put in a contact number that I can call you and verify what we're doing, and you just put in your email address, don't even think about it, because I'm so done with people that I'm trying to help, trying to be here for you. I'm just as transparent as I could be. I'm here. Most time I give out my telephone number to everybody. And when I get people that just hide behind these things, and then they'll say something special and they send emails, and I'm saying, why? I'm not saying against you, but it's just too much energy to then think about to reply when I'm a talker, okay? Know that about me. I'm going to talk. This is what I do. This is the sentiment that I carry. And so I'm not the person to be sitting here typing, and even texting sometimes is hard for me if it's a barrage of texts, but I like to speak as verbal as I can. I can hear and display emotions. So if you do want to contact, if you do want to conversate, then telephone numbers are required. I'm not going to use my conscious powers and the energy to use my telepathy to contact you and say, okay, what is it you want? Oh, you want us to do a reading? Oh, great. Thank you. Although I'm a fan of the movie Electra, y'all remember that movie, right? And I'm a fan of the scene when she and the dude talked into the other world when she closed her eyes, and then she, and he came in and space said, "What do you want?" I thought that was the most powerful scene. And she said, "We need to meet up." And although they both are here, I dream of that all the time, right? And she just closed her eyes, and then he felt the energy. But then the father was listening to them both. Oh man, that was just a cool ass scene. I don't know if y'all seen that, but that is crazy. One of those things, and really, really crazy. So anyway, it's been a plum, pleasing pleasure, as well as a privilege, being here for you tonight. And one of those things. And once again, thank you, Cynthia, for supporting the show and sending your support. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. We got a new member. Of course, y'all give Sakura and hands down. And she's going to be here Friday. And like I said, make sure if you want that, you got to have a webcam. And I need you to have some earbuds of some type, because the audio is going to be really important when we're doing this reading. And we're going to do a couple of them, maybe 15 minutes each, maybe 2 or 3. And she's just going to do it live. Okay. So be willing to be transparent and honest. And if you want that done, she's going to do it. And I think that I answer some questions for some people. And then I got questions, and then share with you some of the journeys and things that I've learned from her pretty much from there. And so definitely we will be doing that as well. So with that being said, let me give you a message of anything else. All right. So, okay. Let me make sure I process what I need to say. All right. So first of all, it is about love. All right. And I want you to understand that where we are in this day of time is going to require love to be on the front end of whatever we do. Oftentimes that we have a misunderstanding of what love is, and we need to probably find out what love is to the other person, right, that you're with, because then you may get a better understanding of how to love this person, and don't walk away thinking, oh, I've been trying to love on them, but they don't accept it. Because I just explained to you, there's all kinds of starseeds, there are all kinds of purposes, there's all kinds of the way we're wired. And if you can understand that person you're with and how they're wired, maybe we can close the gap in all of these thinking that nobody gives a damn, nobody cares. But in the meantime, like I told you, my experience is I want to experience true love. So maybe somebody's listening, but I'm saying this to you that I don't want to be approached by anybody that don't have love to give. And then also understand that there's a big journey of millions of people who's going to hear this message, who's going to understand the love that we're putting out there as a collective, right? And so that's okay. But if you are a person with a message, and you know you're here as a light worker or a starseed, and you have an objective, it is time to activate yourself. It's time to come out of the darkness. It's time to begin the process of understanding your journey, doing your shadow work, right? Building your vibration, all of these things, and to come on with it, right? I spent a lot of time being here. I spent a lot of time being on the front of this thing, right? I take a lot of blows. I take a lot of people, or his grammar, or all of these things. I don't give a shit about it, right? I got a purpose. It's working. There's people finding benefits. So my message is thorough as it could be, but I do respect the way things supposed to be, right? So you want to get better at some of the things I'm doing, right? But my message to you is, and to those haters, remember I tell them if they can hate me and don't know me, I can love them whenever meeting you. Hug your children tonight. Hug your loved one tonight. Call somebody, just tell them you love them, but be authentic with it, and then understand how you can love them. Ask that question. You'll probably be surprised. How can I love you? Try that and see what happens. And I guarantee you, you're going to see something totally freaking different. And before we go, let's give her a shout out to the support here. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much for the super chat. And with that being said, y'all, good night. We're out. Sweetheart, it's time to go. You don't have to go to bed. You can stay up all night, but you can't stay here.
Why did Ruby shoot Oswald? Was there a conspiracy?
In a world shrouded in darkness and obscured by deception from the big secret keepers, burning question ignites in the hearts and minds of truth seekers. Why? Let's dive into the abyss of the unknown. Challenge the limits of our understanding.
This bizarre sequence of double killings raised great questions. Who actually fired the shots that killed Kennedy?
Pierce the veil of secrecy.
Cattle found dead and the manner of their deaths are a real mystery.
Anyone who is concerned about lead in the drinking water in Flint.
And venture into the realm of conspiracies and extraterrestrial evidence.
A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
Let us consider the question, why the big secret?